Welcome to the Darkstream, VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and Infogalactic. I've been wondering for some time what is finally going to put an end to this giant rally that the stock market has been on since 2009. You know, all good things must come to an end. And, you know, it's only a matter of time before a credit boom, an equity boom, you know, a gold rush, any of these things will always come to an end. They have to come to an end because nothing can go on forever. You know, so I was wondering, you know, what could possibly do that? I mean, obviously, you know, a war would be possible, but, you know, usually the stock market does okay in times of war. You know, what sort of thing could implode the value of these tech companies that are holding up the stock exchanges? If you look at what is keeping the stock markets elevated, it's actually a very, very small number of very, very highly valued tech stocks. The Amazons, the Googles, and so forth. Well, now we have a pretty good idea of what's going to melt it down. You know, what we've just seen today is PayPal is cutting off as many, I think, as 100 or 200 what it calls extremist accounts. Google is not only, you know, firing people for their political views, but it is also denying DNS service, if I call it domain service, to the likes of, I think it was the Daily Stormer. Cloudflare, actually, it's actually kind of funny. I'm going to have to post on it tomorrow. Cloudflare's CEO said that despite having these very strong free speech principles, they went and kicked off, stopped protecting the Daily Stormer against DDoS attacks because he woke up in a bad mood this morning. Now, I mean, this is almost descending into farce at this point in time. How can Google deny it? Google has the legal ability to do so, you know, because they claim, oh, well, we're just a private company, we can do this. But of course, there's only a very small number of, you know, these companies capable of doing this. So, what we are going to see is because these SJW converged companies cannot be trusted, they're going to be either broken up or more likely they're going to be taken over and nationalized. And unfortunately, they should be, because they've demonstrated that they're not capable of behaving responsibly in their monopsonistic, I can never, it's a monopsony, so monopsonistic position. And what they are doing by, like you mentioned the Walmart, somebody mentioned the Walmart CEO attacking Trump. What they are doing is, by getting involved in politics, means that they are going to, they are now fair game. And there's absolutely, especially in light of the various court cases that have found that a little bakery or a little photography studio has to get involved with, it has to take photos of people it doesn't approve of, has to deliver cakes that it has to do. And what people don't realize is that this is not a legal matter. Yes, Google and PayPal and all these companies, they can legally do what they're doing. But remember that the law is a fiction. The law is a collective illusion. It's a collective delusion that we all agree to pretend to believe in. You know, there is no material law. And so, here's the thing, is it doesn't matter what people agree to now. You see, they are already looked on with extreme mistrust by governments around the world. You may not realize it, but Google was recently fined $2.7 billion by the European Union. They haven't agreed to pay it yet, and if they don't, they're going to start racking up something like 500 million in fines every day. And so, the other thing you have to keep in mind is all of these corporations exist completely at the behest of the government. They are all government creations. The government can pull their charter anytime they want. Anytime the government wants to completely shut down a corporation, no matter how big, it can do so. And the reality is that there's an opportunity here. You know, people say, I don't know why you're saying no. The government can do it very easily. You have when you file when you create a corporation, you know, you create you have to receive some sort of government you have to be you receive a document that puts you on the government registry. That can get pulled at any time. Right, exactly. States, charter, corporations. If you lose your charter, you no longer exist. And so, anyhow, again, I've said this many times. It doesn't matter what we do. The trends are much bigger than we are. You know, I'm not commenting on whether the corporation should be doing this. Obviously they shouldn't. But what's interesting is, why are they doing it now? Why are they acting now? The Daily Stormer has been around for years. American neo-Nazis have been around since 1960. So all of this taking place now is a reflection of social mood. And so what you're going to start seeing is action and reaction that is going to start a tumbling process, and we don't know where it's going to lead. But what we do know is that when this sort of thing happens, there are various things that tend to come along with it. Some things that we don't even understand what the connection is. You know, we can safely expect that disease is going to start increasing and getting out of hand. Why? Because that's what happens when social mood turns negative. It happens reliably. The correlation is reliable enough that we can anticipate it's going to happen, even though we can't understand why. And so, immigrants might be the vector, but there's already 100 million immigrants in the United States. And so, there's nothing that we can, why would it be, again, the thing that you have to say is, why does this happen now? We don't know why. We will never know exactly why. Why did the Cloudflare guy wake up in a bad mood and then take that action that compounds the action that these other companies are taking. And the thing is, everybody is preparing. You know, I mean, I've been backing up my blog with the idea that Google might be shutting it down 10 years ago, because I always knew that that was a possibility. You know, I always knew that I was not seen as on their side, therefore the possibility was always there. Some might say I'm paranoid. Obviously, it's been completely unnecessary. You know, Google has always been an excellent host, even if not quite as responsive to my ideas for improving their comment system. So the thing is that you know, what's going to happen next? For example, when Amazon starts doing it. No, it's not true that it's not true that well, first of all, it's probably not true that the Department of Justice is doing it. That's just basically Rick Wilson being butthurt about the time that I publicly spanked him on Twitter. So, I mean, Rick Wilson would like to think that the Department of Justice does what he wants, but I'm not too concerned about that. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I have, I think, 2 or 3 backup blog locations already, so it's not a big deal. But the point is that this stuff is starting to happen. The social mood has clearly changed. And what we know is that this is not going to go away. This is going to get worse and worse. There's going to be action, reaction. Now, there's a tremendous opportunity here. All right? You know, PAX may have been complaining that it costs $500,000 to set up a new domain registry or something. Well, there's plenty of people who have $500,000. You know, this is an opportunity to Fox News. No, it's not an opportunity to short Google. You don't want to play the timing games. It is an opportunity to start capturing business. Because even though the SJWs control the social media giants, they are already beginning to collapse. Twitter's growth over the last quarter was absolutely flat, while Gab was growing hundreds of thousands. Where did all of Twitter's growth go? It went to Gab. And so you had PayPal. I mean, what PayPal did recently is probably the best news that Stripe ever received. Stripe is going to significantly increase their business. And what you have to understand, you know, a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, these are giants. How could they possibly fall? It's very easy. It's very simple. Because they survive on the margin. Twitter has never made any money. And so what's going to happen, no, Stripe is not anywhere nearly as converged as PayPal. I'm not saying that there's no SJWs there. I'm just saying that it's nowhere nearly as bad. And so, Stripe. But there are also other much smaller competitors, and whoever refuses to converge, because here's the thing, this is the deadly thing about what these companies are doing. They're trying to claim, oh, well, we're just kicking off the worst of the worst. We're just kicking off the extremists, the racists. Well, the problem is, how do you where's the line drawn? There is no line drawn. And when there is no line, no one can feel safe. Everybody knows perfectly well that it might be them, especially because in many cases it has been them at somewhere like Twitter, once you get targeted by one company, once you get targeted by Twitter, then you suddenly realize, I might be in trouble with YouTube. Now, we've already seen YouTube demonetizing everybody from PewDiePie to Paul Joseph Watson. We are not talking about extremists here. So we know that we could be next. And so all of the consumer confidence that has been built up by these companies is gone. I have no confidence whatsoever in Twitter and Periscope. I'm perfectly aware. I am absolutely aware that this might be my last Periscope. I'm absolutely aware every time I tweet that might be my last tweet. I'm entirely psychologically prepared for it. I don't worry about it. When I got locked out of Twitter for a month and a half or something, I didn't even bother. I mean, it was partly them, but it was also just partly my own laziness for not having updated my email in a decade or something. And so, and so there's no reason whatsoever to worry about getting blocked out of these things because, I can walk away from it at any time. And so, I'll continue to use it as long as they let me. I'm not violating any of the terms of service. But I mean that's a good way to describe it. Platform nomadic life. We have in the same way that the American worker is no longer loyal to his corporation, the American platform user is no longer loyal to his platform. We are all prepared to walk immediately. And that is the exact opposite of what they need. And consumer confidence is something that the market and the economy depends upon. So I don't know how bad it is going to get. I don't know if it is going to get to the level of entire countries creating their own separate internets. I mean, you understand that that's exactly what is the situation in China. The reason that Mark Zuckerberg went to China is he was begging China to let Facebook have access to it. China said, no, we've already got our Facebook replacement. They've got their Facebook, they've got their Amazon replacement. And so China has its own separate internet. And that could easily happen in Europe. It could easily happen in Russia. I think Russia is probably the next candidate to go separate, to break off. If they're not working on it, I would be very, very surprised. And so, Turkey, I believe, is doing the same thing. And so, what this means is that the internet economy and the global economy is breaking down. And it is primarily breaking down because of the political unreliability of the tech media giants. Yes, I think the future is physical and digital balkanization. And so, and here's the thing. If we're seeing nationalism and we're seeing borders on the internet, you really think we're not going to start seeing it in physical life? So, so those are my thoughts. So how do we solve this? We don't. We can't. We can and we will come up with our alternatives. Infogalactic is coming along very well. We will have our Wikimedia replacement engine sooner than anybody thinks. But, what do we do when the DNS and the domains and so forth start balkanizing? I don't know. I have no idea. But the point is that we need to understand that this is happening. We need to be aware that it's happening, and we need to support the alternatives that come about. And so, there's going to be plenty of smarter, more technical minds than mine working on this stuff. And so, Infogalactic will be a small part of it. Gav will be a small part of it. But there's going to be a lot more interesting and exciting companies coming soon. And so, but you need to be aware of the fact that these things are coming. You need to be aware of the fact that even if you are not a public figure, such as it is, even if you are not doing anything that is even remotely extreme, then you will be targeted at some point in time. Gab does have apps. It has apps for Android. It also has apps for Apple, but Apple won't approve it. No, Gab will not get converged. So, anyhow, so I mean, these are somewhat frightening times, but this is normal. If you ask me about where you can learn more about social mood and socionomics, look up Robert Prechter's books. He's got some very good books on it. I highly recommend them. And so, just be aware, back up your data, and always have a backup plan in case the plug gets pulled on you. So have a good evening, and we'll see you soon.